In truth, I actually filmed this entire video, minus of course this intro sequence, before Philip DeFranco released his version as to why he believes YouTube has been deleting all of these weed channels. And even though Philip did cover some very strong points, even a few things that I didn't even personally know, I do believe that there are a lot of key factors to why this is going on that he just didn't even touch on. In other words, this video goes a little bit deeper into these issues, and it also addresses some of the very real concerns that a lot of members of the community have been expressing, such as the hypocrisy and contradictions that have been going on. I would also like to point out that while everything I talk about is founded strongly in logic, it's still just my own perception of these events. It's still what I'm estimating to be the cause of these occurrences, because the reality is YouTube has not yet released an official statement, so no one knows for 100% certainty. And finally, just in case something happens to this very channel, everybody who's watching needs to go and add me on Instagram and also subscribe to my second channel. You can find the links in the video description. Let's start first with the facts. Cannabis consumption and weed promotion has always, ever since the beginning of YouTube time, been against their community guidelines. The community guidelines state, and I quote, "We draw the line at content that intends to incite violence or encourage dangerous or illegal activities that have an inherent risk of serious physical harm or death." Now, I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Since when does cannabis use have a risk of physical harm or death? This entire thing is very ambiguous, and if you read between the lines, what it's actually saying is if you are promoting anything that is illegal on your channel, we have the right to remove the content. Even though cannabis use is legal in some states, federally it is still illegal, making cannabis technically still illegal overall. Of course, there is a way to make drug-related content safely. You simply have to make sure that everything you're talking about is actually for educational purposes. The fact is, YouTube simply never chose to enforce these guidelines until recently. In the past, if you had a video up where you were, say, smoking weed for fun on the video, all they would do is give you an age restriction if you got flagged. Well, now when you show that, you can have your channel completely deleted, as in they'll strike your video and then you get 3 of these strikes, just 3 of these little bad boys, sometimes all consecutively, meaning you don't have any time in between them to really think of what to do next, and you are out of the ballpark, baby, you're done. The thing is, there's actually more than just one reason as to why YouTube has just now started to enforce these laws. Laws? Not really, more like rules. You see, as of recently, not just within the past 3 or 4 months, not just since the whole suicide thing, but actually for the past couple of years, YouTube/Google, it's the same entity, has been under a lot more scrutiny from its advertisers, meaning they've been having a lot of pressure to either ship up or shape out. Shape up or ship out. Otherwise, they risk losing some of their very big advertising investors. For some more insight and to get a more clear, rounded picture, what you have to do is look at their advertiser-friendly guidelines, which clearly state video content that promotes or features the sale, use, or abuse of illegal drugs, regulated drugs or substances, or other dangerous products is not suitable for advertising. Videos discussing drugs or dangerous substances for educational, documentary, and artistic purposes are generally suitable for advertising, so long as drug use or substance abuse is not graphic or glorified. Now, when you look at this and you take into consideration that most people who are smoking weed in their videos, well, they kind of are glorifying its use, it becomes pretty clear as to why these channels are getting removed. They are trying to please advertisers, and it clearly states in the advertiser-friendly guidelines, glorifying drugs will never please advertisers. What YouTube has done is they hired on, I believe it was 3 or 4 months ago, don't quote me on this, they hired on 10,000 or so new employees. They did this just so they could have more help with reviewing flagged content. Now, as a result of all of these new employees, they struggle when it comes to the more controversial content. They don't necessarily know for sure sometimes whether something passes the guidelines or doesn't, because I mean, let's face it, there's a lot for these guys to remember. A lot of mistakes can happen, and often videos that actually do abide by the guidelines, well, they're getting flagged. For some more insight, all you have to do is look at a few online articles, such as this one, and I quote, "In almost all cases, these new hires are contract workers for third-party firms, generally in the global south. They're getting paid to view heinous things, from bizarre videos about children's characters to actual murder, suicide, and sexual assault, so you don't have to. Some 400 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute, and that's about 65 years of video going online every day. How can human beings, even 10,000 of them, properly process that much video with the kind of thoughtfulness and cultural nuance necessary for good moderation? Moderation is a much more difficult job than people would assume, but also it can just be generally exhausting. Watching violent, hateful, exploitive, and disturbing content for hours each day is a lot to ask of hourly workers who probably don't also receive adequate mental health resources. There's a reason moderation jobs get shipped overseas." Now, given this information, it's pretty clear to me that a lot of these people are getting flags for content that they probably shouldn't. So what's happening right now is you've got this huge community of people who are used to going on YouTube and smoking weed with their fans. Like, that's what they would do. It's like toke up with me kind of videos. And all of a sudden now, basically every video like that, the whole premise of their channel is no longer acceptable. So of course you're seeing whole channels getting taken down. Now there's a lot of hypocrisy that's taking place because a lot of these people who are being affected by this have the very valid and legitimate argument that how come alcohol isn't being affected in the same way? I mean, most people are starting to wake up and smell the roses and realize that alcohol is, well, it is literally classified as one of the hardest drugs in the entire world. It wreaks insane havoc on your body and even mind. It's very addictive. You can even die from the withdrawals. And when you compare that to cannabis, well, it doesn't share the same profile. If you smoke weed, you're not going to destroy your liver. In regards to why alcohol is allowed and cannabis isn't, all you have to do is take a look at the community safety guidelines. And while there are videos of people drinking and making mixed drinks and this and that, you don't see people basing their entire YouTube channel around having shots with their fans. I mean, there's a such thing as weed tubers, but there's not a such thing as alky tubers. Because alcohol is so universally accepted, because it's legal in so many countries, you can go to a fancy restaurant and they can serve your fancy alcohol in your fancy glass with your fancy outfit on like mine. You can be seen as a respectable member of society. There is a very clear bias towards alcohol. Let's just call a spade here. You can't go to a fancy restaurant, at least not most of them, not in every country, and order a joint to smoke. And the whole restaurant isn't toking up as they eat, even though some people would think that's great. It's just our world is not there yet. We are a society, and as a society, there are certain things that are currently socially acceptable, such as alcohol, and there are certain things that are not. And weed is slowly rising up the ladder of being socially acceptable, but it's just not quite there yet. So for the meantime, alcohol is going to have an unfair bias towards it. Now, even though cannabis use is seen by YouTube as a drug, and people who are smoking every video, they're glorifying its use, yada, 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 do I believe that it is right that they are now deleting their channel? Well, I definitely don't think that it's right that they should be deleted, but I also don't think that it's right that all of these people are glorifying the use of weed so much. Now, I can't speak for every single weed tuber out there, because some of these guys are awesome. I've watched their channels. I'm not against weed at all, so don't get me wrong here. I'm just saying there is a bias that's unfair towards cannabis that you don't necessarily see with most other drugs. Because people say it's so physically safe, I've actually found that in some circles, people don't even like weed, but they force themselves to smoke as a way of fitting in, and because they think that there's actually something wrong with them if they don't enjoy weed. And this is all a result of the culture, and all these people who are just promoting weed so openly in these videos, who aren't really necessarily showing both sides of the coin all the time. I do see it as having a somewhat negative impact in the long run for very sensitive and suggestible people, not for everybody. But regardless of that, and my own personal biases, I do not believe that they should have their channels removed. What I think should happen is they should get a warning message, particularly because their content used to be okay. And this is the problem that all of us have been having with YouTube for what feels like forever. I understand that the 3-strike system is supposed to be their warning message. However, when these people are getting flagged like 5 in a row, there's no time for them to even go on and see that they had 1 strike and to make a change. What needs to happen is some kind of a public announcement that states that even, acknowledges that, hey, we used to allow people to smoke weed in videos. There needs to be open communication here so that us as creators, kind of the people who are making YouTube, understand when a very real guideline like this. See, this is so great because I can't even say it's changed. More like we can be aware of when they're going to enforce it. In this kind of scenario, YouTube really does have all the cards in their hand, because from their point of view, they've just been letting this slide all this time, and now all of a sudden they've just shown these secret aces that they've been hiding in their pocket or up their sleeve, and they're like, see guys, look, I could have done this at any time. We need to improve our image, and having all this drug graphic content on the site, regardless of weed not being that hard of a drug, is damaging to some of our advertisers. And they just simply put have to please their advertisers in order to keep making money. Something tells me that that is wrong. And the cold hard facts are, because cannabis is not universally legal, YouTube is forced to take a conservative stance on it in order to please the bulk majority of their advertisers. If weed was legal in every place across the globe, this would be a different story. In other words, what I would like to say is if you are someone watching who currently is a weed tuber and you haven't been flagged yet, well, you're not special. They're going after anyone and everyone, especially if you have a lot of content about weed. What I would do is I would 100% private all of my videos or delete them. Deleting all of your videos is better than having your entire channel removed and losing all the subscribers and everything you've worked for. So what you need to do moving forward is be very cautious because YouTube is changing, and it's changing in a way where a lot of the freedoms that we used to have on this server, we no longer have. And you either have to adapt to what's going on right now or move to a different platform. So if you want to stay on YouTube, you're going to just simply have to stop smoking weed on camera. You need to see cannabis as if it is a hard drug in YouTube's eyes and you're showing graphic use that's not educational or documentary by nature, and you simply have to abide by these guidelines, which are clearly stated for you if you want to stay on the website. Of course, I don't think YouTube is right, again, because they should have made a statement and told people this, but again, it's such a gray area because technically they could have, well, given you a strike at any point because it has always been against their guidelines. Now, moving forward, if you want to continue making videos about weed, you definitely can. You can make educational videos, scientific videos. You can even make a scientific/educational video about the different strains of weed without actually needing to smoke them yourself. But if you're going to do this, you need to make it as clear as possible that the intent is to educate. But anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I hope it has answered some questions for you, and I hope now you understand why it appears cannabis use is being targeted. It's not specifically that they are targeting cannabis, because a lot of people have been flagged and striked and have had their channels deleted for other drugs. It just so happens that there is such a large amount of people on YouTube who smoke weed in their videos that it looks like they're being specifically targeted, but they're not. They're targeting all drug and controversial content because they're trying to clean up their site a little bit, and that's why they hired 10,000 new employees. Meaning all of us who do talk about controversial subjects, even people like me, who clearly are here to help people be safe and educate and take care of people, we just have to be super careful moving forward, and you have to take the hit of just going in and deleting your videos before YouTube comes around and strikes you for stuff that used to be okay. But anyway, if you did enjoy this video, be sure you leave it a big thumbs up and just be smart, guys. I know it sucks. I know we can scream, we can yell, we can kick, we can be angry, but man, that's hot. It's really not gonna change anything. You just have to roll with the punches, man. And if you don't like it, like I said, move to a different site or maybe diversify, be on YouTube and other sites. I'm currently going to be building my own website where I can post, articles on it, and I can re-upload some of my content that I didn't feel comfortable having on YouTube. So you guys can look into doing something like that as well. But anyway, again, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you like my content, follow our Patreon page. I love all of you Patreon beautiful peeps. Big shout out to everyone in this box right here. Join our Patreon page, join the family, and help me make better content. I will see you guys all in the next video. And just in case you were wondering, this is literally my daughter's sweater. She asked me to wear it in this video, and I thought it looked sick, especially with this Pink Floyd upside down triangle Illuminati thing cut out. Illuminati.